You're listening to the Paranormal Peeps on the Darkcast Network. Come to the dark side of indie podcasts with the Darkcast Network.
We have cookies. Between the realm of the dead and the journeys of the living, join Josh, Jamie, and Elisa as they delve into the vast world of the paranormal and breathe life back into the history of the departed.
Hello, is this thing on? Okay, good. I am sorry to interrupt your listening pleasure, but my name is Tiffany, and I'm here to tell you about my podcast, True Crime Connections. It's an advocacy podcast that talks with real survivors about real shit. This is the place you want to be if you've been in a toxic relationship or anything tragic has happened to you and you're looking to find your strength and healing. No two episodes are alike, but they all give you useful tools that you can take with you. So make sure to find me on your favorite podcast platform, or you can go to truecrimeconnections.com and come join the Hope Building community. See you there.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Jamie.
And with us today, we have Ash from F That Podcast.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So we're going to talk about a place that I actually didn't know about.
You know, I had heard of it, but I didn't know the story behind it.
So we're going to talk about a little known village kind of tucked into Connecticut called Dudleytown.
Yes.
And
it's well known in Connecticut.
Oh, I bet.
Which is good because like those of us who didn't grow up there have pretty much no idea that it even existed. Like, so how is Dudleytown so well known and I'd say popular in Connecticut?
Yeah, so it's an abandoned settlement off of, I don't know why they named it this, because I feel like naming the road to Dudleytown this name just draws more attention to it. But it's a road called Dark Entry Road. And a very, very appropriate. They don't want to draw attention to it, but they're like, let's give it the most ominous name ever. So it's located in Cornwall, Connecticut. And honestly, it just has a legacy of being cursed and demonic because everybody that lived there either went insane, moved away, or died.
Wow. Yeah, that'll do it. And then you call it Dark
Entry Road.
Dark Entry Road. Why don't you call it Haunted Road Highway or Haunted Highway?
Well, because it's not a highway.
Is it? No.
No. It's a pretty small area in Litchfield County, so it's kind of tucked away, but people know where it is.
Oh, I bet, especially over there.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we need to get here. And like, oh yeah, you take this road and you turn left at this tree and it's like 6 miles down the road and it's on the right hand side.
Look for the place that looks and feels the most haunted.
And then you're there.
Exactly.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So the history, I went in depth for this.
Good. I love history.
Yes. Because if you're calling it a cursed town, a curse has got to start somewhere.
And that it does. So the story of Dudleytown began in the early 1740s when the land was settled by Thomas Griffiths. And then shortly after he settled, the Dudley family came into the picture a little bit later, with various members of the family moving over time. And they finally all settled in by 1753. But here's where it gets juicy. So the legend has it that the Dudley family was cursed back in England thanks to one ancestor having the audacity to chop the head off of King Henry VIII's advisor.
Oh, geez.
So was he the executioner or was he just like decided to behead him?
Like an assassination thing.
Yes, there's a lot of beef between the Dudley family and the royalty. It goes even deeper than this, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of betrayal. So most people believe that this curse followed the Dudley family from England, shadowing them across the pond to America. So Edmund Dudley was actually executed by King Henry VIII in 1509 for stealing tax money from his royal treasury.
So
after this,
he was trying to be Robin Hood?
No, he was trying to keep it all to himself.
Oh.
This family had ulterior motives, and their motives were to be rich and to run everything.
Power hungry.
Yes. So after this, Edmund's son, John, the Duke of Northumberland, conspired to overthrow the throne and take control of it. So in order to do this, it involved his son Guilford marrying a woman known as Lady Jane Grey, who was King Henry VII's great granddaughter.
Oh
so
boy.
it gets twisted. So King Henry VIII's successor was Edward VI. And in order for the plan to work, John and his second son, Robert, Earl of Leicester. And I looked this up because I was like, I know an Earl is up there, but I don't know what it is. It's the third highest rank, with Duke being the first highest rank
Okay.
in British nobility. So he had to convince King Edward, who was 15 and dying, likely of tuberculosis, to pass the crown on to John's daughter-in-law, Lady Jane, who married Guilford. And they succeeded. So Lady Jane took over erroneously after King Edward's death and was proclaimed the queen on July 10th, 1553, 4 days after he died. But Edward had a half-sister, Lady Mary, who was after, like 2 weeks after, proclaimed as the true queen by the Privy Council of England. And 9 days after Lady Jane was declared queen, Lady Mary took over. And their plan was thwarted.
So they were so close. They're like, I'm right there.
Yeah.
And then gone.
And in response to this, everybody was sentenced to death for the conspiracy except for Robert. So John was executed in 1553, followed by Lady Jane. And her husband, Guilford, was murdered 5 months later. They were all beheaded.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah. And then it gets weirder. So evidently, Guilford's older brother, who was in France, returned to England and brought the plague with him, which ended up killing thousands of his countrymen.
Oh, jeez.
So,
Man.
They're already
Yeah.
cursed. They're not even in the US yet, or the territories yet. They're already cursed.
So everybody ended up hating the Dudleys after this. They were like, that's it. We're done. We hate them. And that is where allegedly the curse came to fruition. They had the worst reputation ever.
I think if you were patient zero with the plague and
Yeah.
you're the one that brought it to the country, I'm pretty sure everybody would hate you and your family.
Yeah. I don't know that he was truly patient zero, but I do know that he did bring it to that area and then killed all of his countrymen. So
Oh,
I know it wasn't intentional, but
That's just
not a good look.
no, not a good look.
So William, a descendant of Robert, moved to the New World, and it was his great grandsons that ended up settling in Dudleytown in the 1750s.
Nice. Which for all of those people out there is still 23 years prior to the founding of the country, because that was 1776.
Yes. So life in Dudleytown was not the colonial dream.
Most places weren't the colonial dream.
yeah.
This one was exceptionally worse.
Oh boy. So why was it so bad?
So a lot of scholars and historians say that the area was rocky, the soil was poor, and farming was about as fruitful as trying to get a confession out of a ghost.
Oh, that could be, we can actually do that now. So, but back then, probably a lot harder.
Yeah. But in spite of these challenges, the community of Dudleytown still grew, and it peaked in the mid 19th century before things started to go downhill, like really, really downhill. And there are a lot of theories as to what caused the demise. There are people that think that it was due to poor agriculture and things like that. But then other people believe it was the curse that eventually ruined Dudleytown years and years and years later.
Do you know what the population was at its peak?
I don't, but I try to find that answer really quickly.
Records might be hard to find, considering that's like 18 something.
According to U.S. Ghost Adventures, it peaked in 1854 at 26 families. It is a really, really small area.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's probably accurate.
Yeah. 26 families count for, so we're like about 100 people ish.
Yeah, I'd say so.
That's not bad, but if you don't have any way to really feed them because you can't really grow crops, that does make it a challenge.
What I think is interesting is this settlement was within Cornwall, and Cornwall, by all accounts, was thriving at the time. So it is interesting to consider that this one small plot of land was completely isolated in terms of how it was doing, which I guess doesn't really make sense. If outside in Cornwall is doing okay, and this community is within the confines of Cornwall, it's interesting to consider what about this one unique spot is making it so hard to thrive?
Yeah, which honestly brings back the curse aspect of it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because if you're like, hey, look, everyone's doing great. Everyone is prosperous and thriving, but this tiny little spot right there isn't. It must be cursed.
That's what a lot of people believe. So the decline of Dudleytown didn't happen overnight. Obviously, it was a really slow and agonizing crawl into oblivion.
Ugh.
So there was a lot of disease. Crops that were once yielding began to fail, and unexplained deaths became the norm. There were accounts of insanity among the residents, which really painted a picture of a community potentially under demonic siege. First record of this happening was Abiel Dudley, who went insane. He had a lot of money and was thriving. He suddenly decided to spend it all, and he became the pauper of Dudleytown. He went so insane that he was under the care of a custodian for the remainder of his life.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Shortly after. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's just crazy because like you're talking about someone who's like fit of mind and body and then decides to just give everything away, essentially.
Yes.
Wow.
And not long after, his 3 brothers died under strange circumstances. I couldn't really find anything that elaborated on that.
But just strange.
Did they die like close together or?
Yeah, it seems like it was pretty much in succession. So after Abiel died, his 3 brothers died not long after, but I couldn't really find a definitive year or month as to when it happened. But the way that it was phrased, it seemed to happen within a shorter span of time, pretty close together.
Enough time to remember that it all happened real quickly.
Yeah. Now, a man named Nathaniel Carter purchased Abiel's home in 1759, which was obviously a big mistake. The Carter family subsequently relocated to New York after strange occurrences, but whatever was allegedly troubling them in Dudleytown ended up following them to New York. One of Nathaniel's children died of a mysterious illness. To be fair, all of these mysterious illnesses are probably consumption, which was tuberculosis before they knew what tuberculosis was.
Yeah.
But what happened to the rest of his family is insane. So in 1764, his wife and youngest children were allegedly murdered. They then burned the house down, kidnapping I made a mistake. His youngest child. They then burned the house down and kidnapped the remainder of his children. There were 3 more. And Nathaniel wasn't home at the time, but on his way home, he was caught heading back to his home and was murdered following the attack on his family.
Oh, geez.
I don't know what to say about that. That is just the oddest of coincidences.
Yeah.
If you believe in coincidences, because like your one kid's murdered. 3 kids are kidnapped. The house is burned down. You're on your way back to the house, unbeknownst. You have no idea what's going on. And then you're murdered on your way home.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It gets weirder.
It's already weird.
Nathaniel's brother still lived in Dudleytown, and he suffered a similar fate in 1774. A mysterious illness killed his entire family, but nobody else became ill, just the Carters, which is interesting to think that in such a small community. From an epidemiological standpoint, I work in infection prevention. To consider such a small community, let's say they did get tuberculosis, the fact that nobody else got sick is actually a miracle. That it was just confined to this one home.
That is odd.
Yeah, because TB, when it came, it ran through communities like wildfire. Like everybody was getting it.
Yeah, it's insanely contagious to this day.
Yeah. And so
that's weird.
Yeah, that is super weird. So just one family got sick and died of some unknown illness.
Just the Carters. And again, I'm skeptical, but I think it's interesting to think that so Nathaniel moved, his whole family after he moved, dead. And then back in Dudleytown, his brother, just the Carters, died of a mysterious illness, but the illness is confined to their home. It's just, I don't know, spooky.
Yeah, that is odd. And it's the same home as the other family that died mysteriously. So kind of wonder if there's something in the house. Like,
well, that was Nathaniel, his brother.
Yeah, that's weird.
The first guy that moved to New York.
Right.
But it makes me think it was, they didn't like the Carter family, whatever it was.
It's like they're tainted.
They made somebody mad.
And what's interesting is, so that happened in 1774. I couldn't really find record of anything happening until 1813, which is a long time later. And in 1813, another mysterious illness wiped out a majority of the remaining residents of Dudleytown.
Oh, that is...
As in like everybody?
Almost.
That is strange because you have nothing going on, which I don't know. That's not super surprising in a way, like when you're looking at historical records, because I mean, those are a couple hundred years old and we weren't the best at keeping records.
Mhm.
So like, that's not surprising that we can't find anything, but then another mysterious illness wiping everybody out. That does sound a little more like TB.
Yes. But then almost 60 years later in 1872, things get weird again. So Mary Greeley, who was actually the wife of, I thought this was so interesting. I had no idea that this was a thing in Connecticut, but there was a man named Horace Greeley, her husband. He was the founder of the New York Tribune, and he was actually running for president at the time. And just a few days before he learned that he had lost the presidential election, she hung herself.
Oh, geez.
It's crazy.
Yep. He eventually went insane and died on November 29th that same year.
Oh, wow.
Well, it just gets better and better, don't it?
This is is the happiest place on earth.
It's going to get a lot worse.
Oh, man.
Things are just starting now to really ramp up.
Oh, boy.
So a man named Gershon Hollister was murdered a couple of years later in another man named William Tanner's home. And everybody believed that Tanner did it because, it happened in his home. But Tanner vehemently denied having anything to do with his murder. And he eventually went insane, maybe because he couldn't live with the guilt, maybe because of something else. And he spoke frequently of demons until he died at 104 years old. So he went insane and lived until he was 104 and cried about demons every day until he died.
Oh, man, that's sad.
How long did he have to suffer that way? Because that seems like a long time.
Yeah, it didn't really say, but I'm assuming that he was probably younger. I don't think he was going to be accused of murder at like 70, which is an insanely long time to live.
So he might have
in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So he might have spent over half of his life insane talking about demons.
Yeah.
Probably. And this is going to
wow.
be an interesting link between some other people that live in Dudleytown at the time. This is going to be a really common trend.
Okay, do tell.
So there was a general's wife who died by lightning strike a couple of years later. And not long after, he developed dementia and died.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And around this time, people started speaking of large demonic green entities. Obviously, there were a lot of residents that were going insane, and the families that remained in Dudleytown quickly fled, rightfully so. I think I would have been out
Right.
a few deaths prior to this.
Yes.
I think I would have been like, all right, that's my cue to leave.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to move in.
Well, why would you?
Well, there was one man who did want to move in because the appeal of being the only resident or one of the only residents, that was an appeal that he wanted to chase. So one of the last residents was an Irishman named Patrick Brophy, and he loved the idea of living in solitude, which I understand. I don't think this is the place, but I digress. So Pat Brophy moved his wife and 2 sons and his flock of sheep to Dudleytown in 1892. Bad idea.
Yeah.
His entire flock of sheep died suddenly, and really, from what I could find, it was unclear how or why. His wife then died of tuberculosis consumption, and then his 2 sons disappeared without a trace.
Wow.
Not died, disappear.
Just gone.
Disappeared. Completely vanished.
Jeez.
So he was left alone and he refused to leave. He stated that he wasn't afraid of ghosts. He wasn't afraid of wild animals. And so Dudleytown said, okay, hold my beer. Burned his house down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wow.
Yep. So he was obviously forced out. And a week later, he was seen walking around Cornwall, yelling about giant animals that had cloven hooves and green demonic spirits that chased him out of Dudleytown.
Oh,
Wow.
jeez.
That is crazy.
Was he the last resident there, or were there more?
So there's one more family. It's actually a couple. So the official last residents of Dudleytown came and went sometime around 1920. And this is really sad. They're all really sad, but this one for some reason made me super emotional. So while exploring Connecticut, William Clark, who was a physician in New York, and his wife came across it. They unfortunately thought that it was quaint, isolated, and romantic, and they wanted to build a small cottage there that they could vacation in when he wasn't working as a physician in the city. So they bought land and they built their home in Dudleytown. And everything was okay for 4 years until 1924. While they were vacationing during the summer at the cottage, Dr. Clark was unexpectedly called to the city for an emergency, and he had to leave his wife, and she had accompanied him to the train station. And from what I gathered, she was acting very off. She was very quiet and distant, but she couldn't really articulate why. And he noted that that was strange, but there wasn't anything like actually wrong with her. She just seemed kind of out of sorts. And he was gone for less than 36 hours. And when he returned, his wife wasn't at the station, which was normal. And so he thought that that was strange. And so he got a ride back through Dudleytown and noticed that the door to his cottage was not only unlocked, but it was slightly ajar and it was completely pitch black inside. And when he recounted this, what happened, he said that he heard a sound that stuck with him for the rest of his life. And it was a sound that you would only hear in an insane asylum. He heard a hysterical, high-pitched laugh that he recognized as his wife.
Oh,
and
geez.
when he found her, she had gone completely insane. Until the day she died, she too talked about demons and animal-like spirits that chased her.
Oh, jeez.
Man, that is something else.
Couldn't imagine coming home to
You're
finding your loved one.
You're gone for a day and a half,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That
they've
quick.
basically gone insane.
that's really sad.
Wow.
Yeah. So when Dr. Clark left Dudleytown, that was the end of life for the curse.
So what remains there today?
Yeah. So fast forwarding to the 20th century, Dudleytown transformed from a struggling settlement to nightmare fuel. There were reports of ghost sightings, unexplained lights, and eerie sounds that flickered through the dense forest. And a lot of people that went to the area, especially from what I saw in the 1970s, would come back with weird stories of experiences that were not explainable. But today, Dudleytown is private property. And let me tell you, the Dark Entry Forest Association, which is just a great name, they don't play. They are very serious about keeping thrill seekers and ghost hunters out to protect the land, maybe to protect people from the land.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Well,
So,
it's interesting because Dr. Clark was one of the founding members of the Dark Entry Forest Association. So you got to wonder if they're just trying to, keep rights to it, or if they're just trying to, I don't know, almost protect one of their own, even, almost 80 years now after the fact.
it
Well-
is so heavily protected.
Yeah.
The likelihood of you getting arrested by state police is so high. It's completely gated off. At one point, I don't know if they still do, but when I went, they had, and for years after and prior, which I knew before going in, they had private security that would watch the area. And the locals that live in the area will also call and report any cars that are parked on the street. So it's very heavily protected.
Wow. Makes you wonder what they're protecting.
Right. Well, I was thinking, like, is some of it environmental? Like back then, you wouldn't know if there were some environmental things that had an effect on people and animals alike. Could
True.
some of it been environmental?
It's very possible.
But it wouldn't explain all of it.
No, you can explain the unexplained deaths. It could explain the insanity and the hallucinations
Yes.
associated to it, but it doesn't explain a building randomly burning down.
Were there any, like, I thought I read somewhere where they had like some mills there at a certain point. I wonder if it was anything like from the mills being there and stuff, like for mining and.
To my knowledge, there isn't any mining in that area.
In that
I
area?
did try to see if there was anything environmental that went on, and there's no record of anything that would cause anything of the sort in that land.
Man, that was the first thing I was thinking about too. Is something environmental associated to it,
Right.
especially like gold mining. The process in which you get gold out of ore is very toxic and very dangerous. But if there's no gold mining in Connecticut, which I don't know,
Yeah, that area is super woodsy. It's a very quiet area still to this day. There's really nothing in terms of factories or anything like that in that area.
Right.
And from what I understand, it was just a town where people had lived. There was really nothing else established in that area. I'm not sure about Cornwall,
Right.
but historians, especially historians from Connecticut, the only explanation that they give is that just disease, isolation, and hardships of pioneer life.
Well, okay. So if you're talking 1750s, early 1800s, right? I would agree with you. I think that seems very common, right? But once you get into the 1920s and you're talking about a doctor of medicine and his wife, and you're talking about 36 hours, like that's a different level of piece to it. You know, like you're talking about someone who obviously understands the medical field and probably could diagnose his wife with something else going on, you know? So that part seems probably a little less likely. Now, isolation, I get. People do go insane from isolation, but that's a slow process. It's not like you get put in a room by yourself and the next day you're seeing little green men, or actually in this case, big green men or things walking around. So
yeah, and they lived in the city in the 1920s, which was a bustling place. And that's what I think is the most interesting about Dudleytown is the tragedies that happened there can't be explained by either coincidence or natural causes. So what's the explanation?
Yeah.
Good question.
That's a very good question. Okay, so let's talk about hauntings. I mean, you obviously found your way onto the property.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I went there. It's a long hike. And really all it is it just looks like a bunch of old foundations, like almost like basements kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I personally did not have any strange experiences there. But I will say that it was really, really quiet, like more quiet than the rest of the hike there, which is something that everybody says. And I don't really know what the explanation to that is. Maybe because it is an area that is slightly more clear than the rest. But that was really all that I experienced there.
Yeah.
But my uncle did go, and he had a very different story. And my uncle is not a guy that gets scared easily in any capacity. And he told me about this when I was a kid, and I had chatted with him the other day, and I was like, were you the one that told me this story? And he confirmed it and retold it to me. And I remember him telling me this when I was like 10, and it stuck with me. And so he went with his friends, and they made these makeshift torches. I think he said they use like baby oil on sticks with, I don't know, cloth or paper towels. Yeah. And they go, and the woods is loud. You can hear like crickets, animals, wind, what have you. When they got to the area where the old settlement used to be with the foundations and stuff, he said that it got quiet. Their torches wouldn't stay lit, and they felt really creeped out by it. And they were like, all right, we're going to leave. And as they started to leave, they were hearing things ricocheting off of the trees, almost like somebody was throwing like rocks at the trees, and they were kind of ricocheting off, and they left quickly.
I would.
Yep.
At that point.
Yeah, I would too. See, that's what I found in the research of what I was trying to find. People were saying that the town is like to the point of quiet of like a recording studio. Like, you know,
dead quiet.
Like when you go to a recording studio, you know, like there's no echo, there's no reverberation. It's just dead.
Nothing. Yeah, it's just nothing.
And like, that doesn't make any sense. Like acoustically, it makes no sense. Like if you're walking, you know, for 5 miles in the forest and you're hearing crickets and birds and animals rustling and stuff like that, and you get to another spot that's just like that, you still should hear insects and wind and birds, animals and birds. It shouldn't go dead quiet, and things shouldn't stop echoing all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's super quiet. That's the one thing that I noticed. But I just, you know, I have one of those brains where I have to attribute things to something. Everything has to have an explanation. So I was like, it's probably just, maybe there's not as many trees in this area. So, you know, we're not hearing the wind rustling through the leaves and stuff. But it is interesting that everybody has that same exact experience.
Right.
Like dead quiet.
Nothing.
You could hear a pin drop.
Yeah, that in itself is weird. Has anybody seen the green entities or the green spirits in Dudleytown? The ones that have dared to go and talk about it?
I couldn't find anything about that, but I did find one really weird story on the Damned Connecticut website that gave me chills, because I don't know how or why somebody would come across what they came across, but I can read it to you.
Oh, definitely.
So the story goes, I went camping there several times in the 70s, and I will say that we did not sleep. I will agree with the poster above and state the absolute silence and the absence of any creatures that usually they say habitat, but I think they meant to say live in the area, was a little unnerving. When we used to camp, I was 18, and all I heard was that the place was supposed to be haunted. When I read a book that chronicled the history of Dudleytown, I only went back a few times during the day because I wouldn't go there at night anymore. One of the times I went back during, I found a dead horse in one of the foundations. It was covered with branches. It hadn't even decomposed yet. Somebody dumped a dead horse down in the foundation less than 48 hours prior.
Oh, that's weird.
That is odd. It doesn't
Like,
make
why?
any sense.
Yeah.
It's not like the horse just died there because somebody covered it with branches and leaves.
Right. And if you were out there like horseback riding, like you wouldn't just leave your
No.
horse there.
Oh my, that's odd.
That is super
Yeah.
odd.
Yeah, it's really creepy. But there are dozens of stories on Reddit and on DMCT where people say the same thing, that they felt really uneasy and that it was insanely quiet when it is a long hike to get there. It takes a long time. That the woods was loud and you could hear wildlife and hear the wind. And then the second that you get into where Dudleytown starts, it just gets absolutely silent.
Wow.
That would be an odd feeling, I think.
Yeah.
The absence of just the normal sounds of a wooded area.
Right. Well, normally if you're in the woods and the woods go quiet, that generally means
There's a predator.
there's a predator around.
but
So-
it's like that all the time.
Right. Which means.
So there's an on-scene predator.
Oh, that's even scarier, actually.
Well, I mean, think about it though, with all these happenings and the reports of seeing these entities and, back in the day, and wouldn't that be considered like an on-scene predator mostly?
Yeah, I think so.
And there's always the quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would make sense to me, but that's just me.
It made me think of Appalachian TikTok, which I've recently discovered and wish I never did because now all of my recommended videos are terrifying.
Oh no.
And there was this one video of this guy who was riding, I think, a dirt bike through the trails. And I guess there are a couple of rules. You have to get in before dark. If you hear somebody say your name, no, you didn't. You got to close your blinds and just not be out at night. Why that is, I don't want to know. I'd rather just not know.
Exactly.
And
Right.
remember those rules. But there was this video of this guy who was riding through, and it didn't look like the video was cut or edited in any way. Maybe it was. And he's riding and you can hear the woods and he's like, all right, it's starting to get dark. I got to ride back. And all of a sudden, like that, it gets dead quiet and you can hear his breathing start to accelerate. And he's like, and he starts flying. He's like, I got to get out of here. This is really bizarre. And so it made me think of that video for some reason, where the woods just fell completely silent.
Oh, boy.
Weird.
Yeah.
That'd
is
be
weird.
scary. No, thanks.
That is weird. I wish people were allowed to visit. I get why they're not.
Yes. Well, they've had trespassers. They've had vandalism there. There's not much left from what I understand. So
It's the vandalism part that bothers me the most.
yeah.
Yeah. People are weird.
Yeah. I just don't like it's one thing to visit a spot. It's another one to destroy it and deface it. And it's like, this is someone's house or was someone's house, right? Like you don't need to go there and spray paint or bust it with rocks or anything like that. And I mean, you see it in any of the abandoned places that you can visit, like someone goes in there and just destroys it.
Yeah.
We did that. We were up at an old cemetery. It's called Merker Cemetery. It was an old ghost town. That doesn't exist anymore. It was destroyed 4 times, unfortunately. But the cemetery still remains, and there are wood fences around these grave sites on a few of them. And we went up there 1 week and checked it out. And the very next week we went up, people had gone up there and kicked in and busted these fences
Yeah.
for no other reason than just to vandalize things.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this cemetery in Connecticut called Union Cemetery that I also went to, and you could go back in 2008, and now they also have security apparently, and it's gated off and you can't go, probably because it's an old cemetery. There are gravestones that are hundreds of years old, so I'm sure people went and defaced it, and so now you can't go there either.
It's so sad because when people do that, then they stop allowing anybody to come in,
Yeah.
and they ruin it for everybody, honestly, which is sad.
That, also the case with Fairfield Hills, that was in Newtown, the abandoned insane asylum. People would go in and destroy it. So they had private security that would regularly round and make sure that nobody was there.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me of, I think this was back a few years back, like 10 years back. People had gone into a cemetery and just knocked over gravestones because they could. And we're not talking old, right? We're talking a new cemetery, loved ones and everything out like that. And they go in there and they just vandalize and bust up, the markers for all of these people. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
If I was a ghost, I would make it my afterlife's mission to haunt that person forever.
Right?
Forever.
I agree.
I would just haunt them and scare them. Jump scares every day.
Yes.
Yep.
Haunt their dreams until they go and they make amends for their awfulness.
Oh, not just their dreams. No, I wouldn't stop at their dreams. I'd keep going.
Get them when they're awake. Get them when they're asleep. Just
Right.
get them constantly.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's the thing though. Like this, even just like this Dudleytown part, like trying to figure out what happened there and why so much strangeness has happened on that property. Like allowing people to go and investigate, whether it's geologically, scientifically or just paranormally, like those things can be important to help cement the history of what's going on, but not allowing true investigative people to go out there does unfortunately make it a hard thing to figure out when it actually happened.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
you have to wonder. I mean, with so many, I can see why they call it a curse.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
because this it transpires over all these years and for such a small area to have such a great amount of these incidents is like, it's unexplainable. Like I can't even begin to wrap my mind around what it could be, environmental. Yeah, maybe some of it, but that can't account for all of it.
No.
There's more to it, but what?
The illness makes sense to me, right?
Mhm.
Because tuberculosis or even it could even be something as simple as a bacterial infection because
Yes.
this was before penicillin. But the people that were, by all accounts, mentally stable, just suddenly and inexplicably going insane and saying that they're seeing the same things.
Yeah.
That's what creeps me out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, again, maybe it could have been something environmental that was doing something to their brains, thus causing them to have this cognitive decline. But what would cause them to see the same thing? And again, by all accounts, there's nothing that could be explained environmentally.
No.
So it's just creepy.
Well, and that's what makes me think of water. Like, is there something in the water that was causing this issue? Because I imagine the 26 homes that were there weren't on a single communal well. They might have had, multiple wells. And there are things in the water that can cause issues, mentally in those things like, bacteria and parasites that can cause insanity in those pieces, which could theoretically actually operate very quickly.
Right.
Some of those, brain eating amoebas can kill you within, 24 hours.
That's crazy too. But how does, like she said, how does it explain her seeing, them seeing the same things like these green creatures?
Yeah. And from what I read, one of the biggest explanations is that it was far from a water source. I read some people like on blogging sites saying that they used Cornwall as a water source. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. But I do know that whatever water source they were using wasn't in Dudleytown.
Okay.
So how did they get water? Like,
I'm assuming they got it from Cornwall, which would make sense because it looked like they weren't close to a potable water source, which would be weirder.
The fact that you built a town away from water makes zero sense. Like of two things that you need to have a town, right? You need water and you need food. Like food can be brought in.
Well, obviously so could water.
Right. But
Yeah,
most people
Cornwall's
don't.
really close.
Mhm.
How close are we talking? Is it like,
Dudleytown is a settlement literally in Cornwall.
oh, okay. So it's,
Yeah.
But it said
Yeah.
nothing about the people. If they were getting their water from Cornwall, it said nothing about the people in Cornwall having these types of issues.
Cornwall still exists to this day. And
Exactly.
I haven't heard anything weird about Cornwall.
So it's like you could kind of rule the water out, I think.
well, you can unless there's one other really crazy possibility.
What?
You have somebody in Cornwall who's supplying water to these people who wants them dead, and who's purposely tainting water when they want to, which could potentially explain for a lot of these old ones. But again, that starts going away when you look at the fact that the last one was 1924.
Yeah, it transcends through many, many, many years.
Yeah, we're talking 1753 to 1924. It's 170 years of history. You can't explain away all of it, or even, there's no way to rationalize all of it, especially when in 1924, the symptoms associated to his wife, insanity, green demons, and those things are the same things that happened in 53.
What I think is interesting is that Dark Entry Forest Association sent to Connecticut state legislators support of a constitution amendment. And part of it reads, if the state were to ever sell, swap, or in some manner repurpose Wyandotte State Forest, Dark Entry Forest Inc. and its members will certainly appreciate the opportunity to offer testimony at a public hearing or as written comments as to how such a contraindicated transaction would negatively impact both human and ecological health. We look forward to voting favorably for the constitutional amendment when it reaches the ballot box during 20.
What?
Interesting.
That says they know something. That's like, if you're saying, hey, we're going to come to Congress and we're going to tell you why you shouldn't do this, because it's bad for the environment and it's bad for the health of people, that says you know something.
I tried to Google it. I can't even find a single member of Dark Entry Forest Incorporated. They are completely anonymous.
Wow.
But they were established December 9th of 1924, obviously shortly after Dr. Clark found his wife in a almost catatonic state.
Yeah. And their first meeting was actually officially in 1926 and there were 41 members. But what?
Yeah. There's more there than what they're going to tell.
There's something there that's hidden. Cause or they believe something is there. Right. Either they know or they have this really strong belief that there's a problem.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're willing to put money aside to make sure people get arrested for trespassing, that tells you that they really are concerned about something either there or getting out, like information.
I mean, at this point, we can only speculate.
Yeah. You're going to find out they're like the largest gold vein in the world is sitting underneath Dudleytown.
And it's cursed.
It's cursed.
Apparently. Oh my.
That's where the Aztec gold ended up. It's under Dudleytown.
Weird. It's weird.
So strange.
It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so odd.
Maybe the treasury money that the first Dudley, was it Robert Dudley? No, John Dudley stole from the king's treasury. Maybe they brought it to Dudleytown and buried it.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh, we have our own Curse of Oak Island thing going on.
But the thing is, you can't get in there. You can't do a proper investigation. You can't go in there and test the soil or anything in the area. So we will probably never have any inkling as to what is really going on there.
I wonder why somebody doesn't just get a drone and fly it in there.
Oh, good question.
Well, you could. That would be legal. But the problem is, though, is even if you get a drone up and over and flying over it, the amount of data you can collect for the average individual is pretty low. I mean, even if you got a really expensive drone and flew with LiDAR, you could at least see what's under there, but not much more.
Say that, but I just saw a post on Reddit that blew my mind. This guy flew a drone from China to North Korea and took pictures of North Korea, and he posted the pictures of North Korea on Reddit. And I spent an hour zooming in and looking. It was the weirdest thing. Oh, no. High quality images, dozens of them. So,
right.
I mean, maybe you can do a drone investigation, a drone paranormal investigation.
Yeah, get one of those drones and then lower it down to collect a soil sample.
Could you imagine though, if your drone goes down, right, and goes to pick stuff up and then doesn't fly away and it's stuck?
I mean, would it be that much of a surprise? It's cursed, the land. So.
It would just lead to the problem. Okay, can I have access to your land so I can collect my $20,000 drone?
No. They wouldn't let you.
They won't. So the Paranormal Society I was in, we wrote to them and they were like, absolutely not. I know that there are other high profile paranormal societies or investigators that have tried to get in. They will not let a single person in. And to me, that's strange.
That's very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it eeks of something weird, because you got to figure if Dudleytown is known amongst the paranormal communities, right? That means the communities that have money, like the television shows that have money, they know about it as well. And the fact that they probably walked up with, a bunch of cash and said, can we do this? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Like that still, it's like, to me, that says, what are you hiding? What are you trying not to get shown or found?
Well, it just tells you they do know something.
Yeah. And there is a local radio host for I-95, which is a classic rock station in Connecticut. And one of the hosts who's super popular, their names are Ethan and Lou. And Lou did a FOIA request and was trying to figure out all this information. And I haven't looked into it recently. This was like 2018, 2019, and they were just blocking them left and right.
Wow.
So it's just interesting. I don't know if anything ever came about it. I should Google it, but I'm assuming that he probably never got anything out of it.
Yeah.
All roads lead to a dead end when it comes to that, it sounds like.
Well, people have even gone for Freedom of Information Act requests and have come up empty.
Yeah.
Like those are by law supposed to be honored, and they're not being honored. So the question is what is so important about this small section of land? Because 26 homes is got to be 5 acres at the most.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe 10. Like, what are they like? What is it about that property?
Good question. It's a question we all have.
And how long of a hike?
It depends on where you park. My friends and I didn't want to park anywhere near because the residents will call. So we parked like way far out. So we were hiking for at least an hour.
Oh, that's not bad.
You can't get anywhere near. And it's hard to navigate too, especially because depending on where you park, this was so long ago. So I don't really know if there's new housing in the area or not. Yeah, this was 2008. But yeah, you have to park really, really far away.
I'm up for a hike.
Try it.
Are there any like hiking trails near there to where you could just say, oh, I just got lost and ended up here. I don't know where I'm at.
There's, I think, like hiking trails around it, but none that get anywhere near it. Yeah.
I think that whole I don't know where I am would get thrown out the window when they look and go, you got dowsing rods and equipment and you know exactly what you're doing.
Well, that's why you just go in with a digital recorder in your pocket or something. You keep it simple. You don't go in with all the equipment and just, tell them the area, has that effect on people and you don't remember anything,
I just followed the green men.
Yeah. I just followed the green moving demons.
So I found an update on that FOIA request and they did give him access to documents. But in the article, he said that it was in 2021, essentially almost entirely redacted and thus completely useless. There was no information in any of the documents. So it's really, really, really strange.
Wait, redacted?
Yeah, they can do that. They can give you a document and redact. However, the Freedom of Information Act isn't really a thing. I've encountered that issue many times. They can redact whatever they want, and as long as they submit it to you, they are technically submitting. They're technically abiding by the request. They can redact whatever they want. It's great.
Wow.
Because I thought redaction was only for national security issues, like names and things associated to like security. Like that's usually when redaction comes in.
Any kind of information that an entity that is politically backed, maybe it's the FBI, maybe it's state or local police, or an entity like this business that has a lot of money behind it, can redact whatever they want, and they're not going to answer to anybody because they have money to throw around.
Right.
All right. So So here's the deal. We all get it. we crowdfund this thing. We'll get $100 million put together and we'll take them to court.
Oh, jeez.
And then the curse will follow us all.
Right?
Yes.
Wipe out everybody.
But at least we can document it before we go.
Oh, geez. Yeah. So, it's obvious they are working so hard to keep it under wraps.
Yes.
Very hard.
And in my brain, like thinking from a science perspective, okay, let's say that there is something, maybe it's the soil, some kind of environmental issue. Why wouldn't you just publicly make that statement so everybody shuts up?
Right.
If it's the soil, you can say, hey, we have this soil test. Here's the data. So everybody can stop asking.
Yes.
It's just weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like they're perpetuating this spooky, cursed settlement theory by being intentionally vague 100 years later.
Exactly.
Well, and that's where things like seem strange because like we have Utah's a very interesting state because we have a lot of protected lands, but we also have a lot of fallout and things from nuclear testing. But we also have some very valuable minerals in the ground, and some of them are worth like 5 times that of gold. And so maybe the reason why they are protective of this land is because there are things in the ground, rare earth metals, that would be excruciatingly valuable. And if you release a soil sample report, people are going to be like, you have something in the ground that's very valuable, and now we're going to come and get it.
Maybe. Hard to say.
It's very hard to say.
I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
they just leave us to speculate on all of it, because they're keeping it watertight.
Yes. And they're not allowing people to debunk and take away any of the reasonable explanations of things.
No.
But I feel like if that was the case, to me, I feel like some entity within the state of Connecticut, what that entity is, I don't know, but a state-backed entity has to understand the reasoning behind this, because why would the state back this without some kind of knowledge and understanding as to why this entity exists and why so many state resources like the state police are being used? Beyond vandalism, because this was established prior to the vandalisms.
Mm-hmm.
This was established 100 years ago, right? And
Yeah.
if it were a case of something valuable being on the land, wouldn't the state then step in and claim it? I mean, this
Right.
state is the state with like the highest taxes in the country. They're going to step in and be like, all right, Connecticut's taking this. Thank you very much.
Well,
Right.
So I
but
just feel like, I don't know.
But see, herein lies the problem, though. It has shadow members that aren't known. Wow, we are getting into conspiracy theories on this one.
True.
But
Governor Lamont, I see you.
but that's the thing, though, right? Is like there are shadow members of this association. Yes, they probably know something, but we don't know who they are. And if they are actually in bed with the government or are part of the government agencies, then they could control all of it.
Yeah. It could
It's
go.
probably the fountain of youth or something. You have to sacrifice like 100 people and you get to live forever. And then, you've got all these politicians involved. They
There you
probably do,
go.
like a sacrifice. That's probably why the dead horse was there.
That's exactly why the dead horse was there.
An offering.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, that's how they stay in power, is they have to make a sacrifice to the demons that are on the property so they stay in
Yeah.
power.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that went dark.
Yeah, we could go down this rabbit hole pretty far, I think.
Yeah, I think
It's
we could.
like wide open. Yeah.
Well, Ash, we want to say thank you for coming on and joining us on this fun and kind of crazy adventure.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find your podcast?
I am available on all platforms, but it is F***T that.
Okay.
And I'm also on all social media at @FThatPod, except for Instagram, which is @F_that_pod, because somebody has @ThatPod and it drives me nuts.
Oh no.
They took it first.
It's actually a podcast that doesn't exist anymore. And I wish that
Oh.
Instagram would deactivate it because they haven't been active in 4 years. I regularly check to see if I can steal the handle.
Oh geez.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, it's all right.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and listening in. Please like and subscribe to not only our lovely podcast, but also to F That. And as always, stay ghosty, my peeps.
Whoa there, Sparkle Farts, my trusty unicorn. I've got to tell these good people about our show. Hey there, I'm CJ, host of Beyond the Rainbow, True Crimes of the LGBTQ+. While I do have episodes on some of the more well-known cases from the LGBTQ community, such as Matthew Shepard, Brandon Tina, and the Orlando Pulse nightclub massacre, I cover world cases like the London nail bombing murders, Australia's Snowtown murders, in South Africa's corrective rape and murder of lesbians. I cover lesser-known cases like the murder of 21-year-old trans man Alex Van Dulsen in Indiana. Police called his death a suicide. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. I tell you about wrongful conviction cases, serial killers, and school shooters. My unicorn and I cover all sorts of crimes against the LGBTQ and crimes by members of the LGBTQ. You don't have to be part of the community to listen. All walks of life are welcome to become Rainbow Warriors, because you matter. And remember, it's not a crime to be gay, unless you're a murderer.
Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at coldspot_paranormal_research.